The core of ggCircuit to me is the take advantage is the customers at the land center. To me, that is the core of ggCircuit, and the core of the land center business is the customers at the store. And I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit, but if we are just in this business to try to get $5 out of a guy walking in the door to sit down on our machines, whether they're in an event or whatever else, and then walk out the door, if that's going to be the core of our business and the bulk of our revenue, then we're fighting a never-ending battle that is never going to result in a huge profit margin for our stores. It is never going to be, it's not going to be pushing us in the right direction, because the key value for us is our customers. So if a customer has to pay to come into our store, which they all have to pay, and in order to do all these cool things, we have to charge them more and more and more, we're not going to get them to come in as much. And again, the value I feel like we have is the fact that we have a very key marketing demographic. We have a lot of younger age males, which is a huge brand loyalty market that a lot of these big companies are trying to reach early on to make sure they get them as part of their brand longer term. And I think that we have an opportunity to reach people in such an engaging way that a lot of other marketing and PR outreach that companies have as an option to them can't even come close to doing. And so I want to talk along those points and focus on a couple problems that I think we have from land centers today. So land centers today, here's what I'm just going to be blunt and honest in a lot of this stuff, and I'm not picking on anybody in particular, but I think land centers today are pompous assholes, a lot of them. Like a lot of them are just, we all think we're special, we all think we're awesome, we all think that we're just the best thing ever, and that there's no reason why people shouldn't be showering us with free prizes and things to represent their brand because we're so awesome and we have all these gamers coming to our store. And first thing I think is that we just all need to have a reality check, is that none of us are cool. None of us are big enough to make an impact by ourselves. And even some stores that have opened up multiple chains are still struggling to open the doors and to get the things that we feel like we should get, because we feel like, hey, we have this huge influence over gamers. I know an executive at a really big console company, and they, again, don't really care about esports, and they don't care about things with competitions and things, and they're starting to focus a little bit more on it because the general gaming demographic is not in our stores. The general gaming demographic is sitting at home on their couches. It's now expanding out to people sitting on their cell phones. For what we think we are, we actually don't touch that many gamers in our regions. No matter how many gamers you get in your store, you're still touching such a small fraction of the actual gaming population that you gotta get off your high horse. You're not gonna get people coming and showering you with sponsorships and products because you're reaching so many people and can make them so much money. The other problem is that along with that, it's very, very tied to revenue. It's very easy for a gaming company to give GameStop perks and bonuses and marketing materials and things, because GameStop then turns around a month later and gives them a report of how many games they sold for them or how many headphones they sold for them. We can't do that. And even those of us that sell retail, nobody that we talk to is going to give a rat's patootie that we sold 15 headsets last month, which would be a great sale month for most of us as land centers, selling 15 headsets in a month. That's a drop in the hat. That means nothing to any of these people. So we have that uphill battle of trying to figure out how do we influence sales, because honestly, that's what game companies care about. They have a budget, they're a business, they have money that they go out and market. They don't go out and market their thing because they want people to think they're cool. They go out and market their thing because they want people to buy that thing. So if they're making a headset, they're making a game or whatever, all of their focus is driving sales. And we have no ability to provide them at this point numbers to show we influence sales. I don't care how good and busy your store is. There is not a store chain in the world that has an impact yet that can get some of these big companies interested in land centers. The other thing is we're so geographically spread out and small that, we can't influence a very big range of people in a geographic area. So if you're in the US, and you have 5 centers, let's say, in the US, in 5 major cities, you're still not going to be able to reach. The United States is split into 9 different regions by the Census Bureau. And in order to reach the biggest population, I figured it out when we were looking at franchising, you needed about 27 stores to reach enough people to get attention from some of these companies here in the US. So nobody's close to doing that. Nobody's close to having a franchise model to do that. So we're still super far away from any of those things. And the fourth problem with land centers today I want to touch on is, and we talked about this with the refresh thing, is that by default, most owners and managers I've met are lazy. And, again, I don't know how much of that is because the industry is still infant and the policies and procedures and things aren't there. But again, why we're talking about why ggCircuit's here, that's another big reason, is that we want to be able to put things in front of gamers without so much work. If you're a Subway franchise, if you're a GameStop franchise or store manager, stuff comes from corporate and ships in and they tell you what to do. You unbox it, you do it, you put it up on the wall, you do that week's thing. It doesn't cause you to do a bunch of extra work. Really good land centers work their asses off right now. It is not an easy task. You cannot take this box, open it up, put a land center in a strip mall, hire a couple people to run it, and go back to your other life and expect that thing to do well. It's not going to happen. So there is not a cookie cutter model. There is not a book that you can buy. There's not a kit you can buy that's going to keep that thing running for you. You have to work your ass off and do all these things to keep it running. So again, those are all problems with land centers becoming successful long term. It's exhausting. It's high energy, it's fun, we all like the technology, but in order to make it long term, you have to be on top of your game all the time. You can't, look at the best game centers that people watch out there and go watch their Facebook pages, go watch their websites, go watch their Twitter feeds. They're doing stuff all the time. They're working their asses off. They've got new events coming up. They're making new deals with little people in their regions to do fun projects. They're partnering with Extra Life, doing fundraisers. You've got to be out in the community doing all this stuff all the time, and it's a lot of work. So the purpose of ggCircuit is to unify land centers. That was my goal, is that ggCircuit needs to unify land centers as one voice and take advantage of the core value of what we all have, and that is our players at our stores. And I want to be able to take this big group of land centers and represent them with these manufacturers and publishers and developers and advertisers and brands that have nothing to do with gaming, that just wants to reach our demographic and monetize our core value, which is our players at our centers. So that you don't have to have your source of revenue just be the guys that are walking in the front door handing you $5 or $10 to sit and play on your systems. I think that's super important because of the things we've talked about in this show so far, as far as different things to do, fun and exciting other entertainment options, things to keep players coming back in your stores, refreshing your equipment, refreshing your technology, refreshing your games. We really need to bond together and work together. And it's super difficult because there's so many, again, independent owners out there that have their own agendas, that want to do their own thing, that it's all about my center, my center, my center. And, a lot of times I just have to bite my tongue and say, okay, listen, do your thing, just stick with us, watch what's going to happen. And this is the thing that we're working for in the end. I don't know what the end game is going to be, but in the end here, there's either going to be a single store chain that has 200 centers, 500 centers, 1,000 centers around the US, around the world, or there's going to be an organization like ggCircuit that manages to unify these things, again, through software, so it's automated, and we have the controls in place to be able to provide all these things without a lot of extra work for the centers. It's one of those two things. That's the only way it's going to happen. If it does not happen, then centers are going to continue to open and close over time, and who knows if it's ever going to become a real industry. So those are the routes we have to go. We feel like we're going to be going, obviously I believe in the ggCircuit model. I believe in independent owners, just like bars all over the world, have to worry about beer distributors and the beer companies getting their beer to them, but they're in charge of their own bar. They're in charge of their own hours. They're in charge of their own ways that they do things, but they could not exist without that supply chain and organization of the beer manufacturers and the beer distributors producing that product for them at a price that they can make a profit on, because it just doesn't make sense without that organization pushing everything down. Not that I want ggCircuit to be a beer distributor, but that's the example that I was thinking of that maybe might make more sense to a lot of these people. Sure, we have stats. Sure, we have leaderboards. Sure, we have prizes. That's not the core. That's what's pushing us to the core, which is trying to get to the players and utilize the players' value to get more stuff sent to the centers to drive more players into the centers. It's a chicken before an egg type of thing. The other thing is, obviously, most of these, I'll use Ignite for an example. I didn't want to use a lot of personal examples, but I'll use Ignite in Chicago. They have a great relationship with SteelSeries. They have that relationship because the North American headquarters for SteelSeries is in Chicago, because Sam and Max and those guys up there, they worked their butts off for a year and a half, I think, going back and forth with meetings with those guys and pitching them on or whatever in their city, getting that SteelSeries sponsorship. And that's not going to happen everywhere. That's not reality. That's because of that unique situation they were in, and they were able to keep meeting face to face, knocking on the door, bringing their players and their employees into play and see the center. We need a unified voice talking to these people, representing all of us, because these companies don't have time to mess with each one of us individually. If I sent them a list of 40 good ggCircuit LAN centers, let's say to SteelSeries, and said, I think you should support these 40 LAN centers, please contact all 40 of them. Or if I said, here, would you mind if I gave all 40 of these centers your contact, and all of a sudden these people got 40 emails from LAN centers all over that wanted these different things and wanted to work with them with sponsorships, it's such a turnoff for them. They don't want to mess with that at all. They want somebody to come in and say, listen, I represent 40 LAN centers. I want 1,600 headsets to go out to 40 different LAN centers. I want to send 40 headsets to each of those LAN centers. Here's what we can do for you. Here's the numbers. Here's where we're going to put your brand. Here's the times it's going to be seen on the screen. Here's the times it's going to be seen on the website. Here's the times it's going to be seen on the Facebook page. Ship them to us. We'll distribute them. One point of contact. Boom. It is a done deal. Those are the things that we can slam dunk and we can land together as a group. It's not going to work with multiple points of contacts for sponsors. Same thing with advertisers. If we want to get Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Monster, I can't help myself. I'll use another example. Howie's has a great deal out in California with Monster. The Monster people are right there by him. They walk in his store, they see their giant logo on the wall. Well, of course they're going to do that. Do they give a rat's ass if Monster logo is on the Ebash Terre Haute's wall? Hell no, they're never going to be an Ebash Terre Haute. They never plan on walking in here. They don't want to talk to me. I'm like some hick from Midwest that doesn't know anything. I'm not from a big city or anything. They're not going to pay any attention to me. Those deals aren't going to spread out to all of us, no matter how cool we all think we are individually are, because it's just too much work for these companies to try to work with that many different people spread out all over the U.S. and all over the world. So, again, those are, some of the bad things. I want to talk about some of the good things. Some of the potential scenarios and some of the things that are actually starting to happen. These are why ggCircuit exists. These are why we want all of your support. This is why we want everybody to be involved. There's a scenario developing. This is not for sure, whatever, but I'm working on a scenario with a console gaming company that could provide systems and a program at LAN centers all over the world as part of ggCircuit's tournament and event system. So what this would be, for an example, this is just a rough example. This is not for sure. This is not anything, but this is the route we're looking at. Let's say we pick 100 centers around the world and we send them 8 systems for free. We send them 2 games every quarter for free, and we provide $50,000 in prizes every quarter to run those games on those systems for that quarter. This provides centers, again, going back to Operation Platypus, refresh, new content, new games coming in, costs them nothing at all. All they have to do is they have to follow, and again, following our guidelines on what to do comes through the software, and hopefully will be as automated as we can possibly make it, so that their players participate in these events, show up, fight for these prizes, try to win these things, play these games, and again, become customers of that brand over time and customers hopefully of that game and get hooked on that system. Then we refresh that and do that again the next quarter with a whole nother set of games. Those types of scenarios are possible. Those doors are starting to open. But they aren't going to stay open if I continually have to have calls with centers explaining why the $75 a month fee to help us maintain the servers and run all of this and employ people to do these things, those have to continue to happen. It's not about showering my players with prizes. It's about us taking the step forward first and saying, listen, we will give you our players. All of us together as Land Center Group, we have to come out and we have to say, listen, we will work hard to put your brand in front of our players. We have to prove that first. We're not going to get free stuff first. We're going to have to prove that first. And that's what we're doing. We're already at 65 centers active or more. I don't even know. It changes so fast. Like, it's always going up. We're at 66,000 active gamers currently. Like, we're already opening those doors, but we're on this threshold of like, listen, we're close. We're ready to open some of these big deals. If you don't understand what we are, if you don't understand what we're about, this is what we're about. We're about representing everybody as a group, taking all of our gamers as one unified group and one unified event system, one unified tournament system, and putting that out there and making that available for sponsors and advertisers. The one thing that I will touch on before I finish up is we do have something in the works that is going to happen, and this is going to be globally. Depending on the games and depending on the regions and the servers, we're going to be able to put a lot of keys and codes and things available for gamers in all of the centers from a global standpoint that's going to cost all the centers nothing. That's a huge deal. That's a big deal. That's something that's coming that I won't promise on a time. Again, it's a thing that is opened up, is available to us. And so we will be able to, on a Tuesday, release 500 keys for a new game that the centers from your store or the players from your store will be able to go in from the skin right on the desktop, be one of the first 500 centers to claim one of those for, some small amount of coins, and it'll email them the code, and boom, they're available to go play that game. They're available to get that in-game item. It's something super exciting that I think is, again, we're at the beginning stages of a console gaming company deal. We're middle to late stages with this deal for keys in-game and keys for a full versions of a game or alphas or betas of a game. So those things are coming, and those things will be available to people all over the world. So, if there are servers for that game running in Europe, if there's servers in the Oceanic region over there in Australia and Asia, then we'll make those keys available to those regions as well. So just a quick summary is, again, the core of ggCircuit, it's not a tournament system. It's not a reward system. It's not a prize system. It's all of those things built on the foundation of massive amounts of gamers around the world under one flag that we can take in a sponsorship deck and go get deals for all of us at our centers to keep new and fresh things coming in that don't cost us any money, that drives more players to our centers, which then creates more money for us. It's this big wheel. More players means more eyeballs, means more value, means more prizes, which means more players, and that wheel just has to get turning. That snowball just has to get going down the mountain.